Welcome back to the Riding the Wall podcast. I'm Chad.
And I'm Justin.
And we're going to talk some more NASCAR.
Oh, yeah.
Unedited, unfiltered.
Still getting that dirt off our face.
Yeah. Yeah. And out of our ears. It's caked. Just got random stuff to talk about today. We're going to talk about Bristol, what we thought about the race, look ahead to Martinsville, talk about our fantasy, of course, and our fantasy standings. Don't want to confuse people there. It could be
That'll be for the off season. We'll talk about fantasies.
HR wanted to hear some stories. Those would be some stories right there.
Don't judge me for what you're going to hear.
That's right. And we'll just talk about whatever else comes up there in the middle. First thing I wanted to talk about, I thought about this over the week, and I kind of jotted it down so I wouldn't forget about it. But last week when we were talking, while we were recording, we had the Hendrick penalties got updated. No, I'm sorry, it was the Colleague.
Yeah,
Colleague
with
penalties.
Justin Haley.
Yes, got updated, and his penalties were not the same as the Hendrick cars. Colleague, they gave him back 25 points, but that's about it. 25 driver points and owner points. Kept the crew chief suspended for 4 weeks, and his is going to start actually last week at Bristol, and he'll be out for 3 more weeks.
Well, it kind of seems like maybe they gave Colleague Racing those points back for using the appeal system.
They might have.
I mean, that's the only thing you can come up with, really.
Yeah.
Thanks for using our appeal board.
Right.
But here's what we'll give you back. Because they, the same crime was committed, as far as we know, unless there's something they're not telling us.
Right.
So.
And that brought up a big to-do about the transparency with the penalty system and the appeals system, and why they decide the way they decide. So we can talk about that for a little bit. I said as I was reading it last week while we were recording, I said my thoughts on it were it's bullshit. The same crime happened, like you said, as far as we know.
Right.
The same issue happened to both teams, or all teams involved, and 4 out of the 5 teams got everything, as far as points-wise, got given back to them.
Yeah, all 4 Hendricks teammates,
yes,
they kept the same punishment on them, all 4.
Yes.
And Justin Haley with Colleague Racing, the lone wolf outside of Hendrick, that got dinged the same thing, got his reduced, basically a sentence reduced.
Yeah, he got 25 points given back to him, whereas the Hendrick guys got all 100 of their points given back, which leads us into this big transparency talk of why are we deciding the way we are? Why is this appeals board deciding the way they are? Now, every appeals board is different as far as who is on the appeals board and how they decide. It's people that's not associated with NASCAR, so they have no influence. They have no
nothing
dog.
to gain.
Right, they have nothing to gain. They have no skin in the game, really. So it's not going to affect them at all. So that way they can come up with a fair.
Keep it honest.
Yes, keeping it honest, and I agree with that. That's the way it should be. But why are they deciding the way they are as far as these 2 penalties levied on the same day for the same reason to the same manufacturer, but yet we're coming up with different outcomes when it comes to the appeals part of it. So there's no transparency. So, and I even said I don't agree with it. I agree with NASCAR's part. They penalized them all the same. So NASCAR was keeping it down the line.
Yep.
They were doing the right thing as far as NASCAR goes and the sanctioning body, but the appeals board is what brings us into question. So I just I just wonder where their head's at. Why do they decide what they decide and how they come up with it? Um, and I think NASCAR was the same way. They were thinking the
Well,
same
and to
thing.
me, this is where the process is falling short. I think the appeals board is a good thing, but where the process is falling short to me is, like we've talked about the last 3 episodes, communication.
Hmm.
NASCAR should make that public when they make that decision. Here's why we, the appeals board, decided this for Colleague Racing and this for Hendricks Motorsports.
Yeah.
That needs to be put out there,
Hmm.
so there isn't favoritism, judgment, and those actions being shown.
Yeah, and that way maybe part of the fan base for this sport does not start hollering conspiracy theory or golden child or golden team or whatever. Hendrick is the favorite, whatever they want to say. At least we know why they're deciding the way they are. And that led NASCAR, after that penalty came out, NASCAR decided to change some rules. Now, whether they've actually got it in a book or not, I'm not sure. I'm not involved in that, obviously, but I believe they do, and they have rewritten the rule, because before it said the appeals, the decision of the appeals board would not be publicized. Basically, we're just going to keep it all quiet. Hush, hush, this is what you got, and this is what you got, and that's the end of it. We're going to go our separate ways. We're going to keep going. Well, now, because of this, and everybody's hollering transparency, as they should, NASCAR has changed it to where the appeals board decisions can, and I believe the wording of this was can be publicized, so there is a little bit more transparency
And it should be, but
moving forward.
it sounds like NASCAR is trying to get out in front of it because you know how easy it is to lose fans.
Oh,
You know
yeah.
what I'm saying? In
Yeah.
any sport.
Especially these days where you have so many options of other things to go to.
Right. You got so many channels, so many options. But I mean, you don't want people to start screaming favoritism because I mean, you're going to have Hendrick fans, cheering or booing. You're going to have Colleague Racing fans cheering or booing. Somebody's not going to be happy about this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So to me, you get out in front of it. You make it public. This is why we went with this.
Mm-hmm.
Here's our reasoning. And you got that transparency out there. But it really is easy, super easy to lose fans right now. And the last thing, look what the strike in the 90s did to baseball.
Yeah.
I've never been a baseball fan. Can't stand baseball.
No, me either. It's too
But-
boring.
Right. So, but that's the last thing we want is to lose fans
Right.
over something as small as communication.
Yeah, something that can easily be prevented. And they're also going to put out the parts in question. Like, this was over a car part that was not supposed to be altered in any way, right? So now any of the parts in question that get repoed, so they can look at it, and let's say these are the parts that get, they're the parts that you got in trouble for. In this case, it would be the hood louvers. And they are going to start putting them out there for everyone to see.
Yeah.
This is the Colleague hood louvers that got them penalized, and this is why. And that way everybody can see it. Don't do this, or this is going to be the penalty you get.
This is a no-go.
Yes.
This is a go.
Yes. And, right. And I think that's a good thing. It's kind of shame on you. We're going to show everybody what you've done.
Right.
That way,
Can't say you didn't know to these other teams.
right. That way, moving forward, you've had the opportunity to see it. So now, when that penalty comes handed down to you because you've done the same thing, it's going to be harder to appeal. And I don't think that's not their intention, is to
You're not there
discourage.
to embarrass or discourage.
Right, discourage them from using the appeals process, because I haven't talked to anyone that thinks it's a bad idea, right? But it's kind of a way to let them know, hey, this is what's happening, don't do this. So, and along that lines, they are also, see if I can bring them back, I had it in my head here just a second ago. NASCAR is also going to My mind just went blank. It's been a long day. But NASCAR is also going to. I think. While I'm trying to think of what I was going to say, I think NASCAR should make it a little bit more black and white in the rule book. I mean, I don't see how much more black and white it can get. You do not alter the parts in any way. That's as basic as it gets, right?
I mean, to me, you alter a hood louver, or you alter your fuel tank to where it holds a half a gallon more than the rest of them. It's the same punishment.
Right.
You're altering a part on that car.
Yes.
You're altering the car.
Yes.
So, I mean, yeah, it's not as. I mean, yeah, a half gallon of gas is a lot more to me.
Yeah.
I'd rather have a half gallon of gas than not, but it's going to give you a lot more curve than a hood louver probably, but altering the car in any way,
right,
is altering the car.
Yep, it's
so
pretty plain.
You've got to be black and white with it. It don't matter if you're altering a hood louver, a spoiler, if you're shaving down a tire. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Don't alter anything to do with these cars.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember what I was going to say now. They're also putting in the rules to where if you get penalized, like let's throwing out the colleague, for example, they got penalized everything that they've got. So moving forward, the penalty is going to be this, right? For whatever it is, they're going to have a penalty set for that. And then the appeals panel, they cannot just overturn a penalty. They cannot just add to the penalty. They're going to have a window that they can fall into. You can let's say for the Hendrick, it was 100 points, the crew chief suspension, the $100,000 fine. So something like that, maybe for a monetary fine, they can either add $50,000 or take $50,000, but that's the window. It can be up to 150 or it can be down to 50, but it has to fall into that. It can't go down to zero, right? Or with the points, they got penalized 100 points. Maybe moving forward next time, it might be they can add 50 or take 50, but they can't go back down to zero. So there has to be a window for this appeals board.
Well, and with this appeals board being new, they're setting a bar right now.
Right.
And that's I think when you're doing that, you have to be on the stricter side more than the lenient side.
Yeah.
So it don't get out of control. Mm-hmm. You need to set the bar really, really strict.
Yeah.
So in the future, I mean, if they would have done, if they would have penalized each of them teams with half of what they did, now the appeals board can take it even lower. You know what I'm saying? In the future. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a good thing they went strict. Mm-hmm. And you have to.
Yeah. So I do believe that this colleague decision really kind of pissed off NASCAR. I think the Hendrick one pissed off NASCAR, and that may be reason why the colleague didn't go as extreme as the Hendrick penalty did. Maybe that might be why they didn't give all the points back, because they're already pissing off NASCAR and they don't want to do that too much.
Fuel the fire.
Just my opinion, and which kind of leans us into this next one, which was the Denny Hamlin penalty from Phoenix.
Where he admitted on a Tuesday that it wasn't an accident that he got into Ross Chastain.
Yes, he admitted on his podcast that he did it on purpose. And then he gets hit with a $50,000 fine, and I believe it was 25 points?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he appealed that.
And he appealed that, and it was not out yet as of last week's recording, but then the next day it came out, and it was upheld. And we both kind of thought last week that it would be upheld.
Right.
So after that, he went to his podcast, and he explained his case that he presented to them, and basically the whole process involved is what he talked about. Now, I've only listened to a couple of Denny's podcasts, and this was one of them, just because I wanted to hear what he presented and how he presented it. And after listening to it, I kind of side with Denny. He made a very good case, because they went after him for three things. and I'm not sure if I can remember all three right now, but I know number 3 was actions detrimental to the sport. Number 2 was altering the outcome of a race or a championship, and the other one was intentionally causing an accident which would cause another racer to be taken out of the event or something like that. I forget the exact wording, but that summarizes
that sums it up.
Yeah, and he presented his case that he didn't take anyone out of the event. The guy, him and Ross continued. He didn't spin anybody out. He didn't. He had the analytics of the car to show that he was taking that turn
the way he should have.
Well, with less speed, and the car wasn't handling as good. I mean, he had the analytics to show that.
Well, right, and most times when somebody intentionally takes somebody out of a race, they drive into a corner a lot harder than they should. You know what I'm saying? So
yes.
you got those analytics to show you went even weaker than you normally would. It helps your case.
Right, and he had that. He had the analytics to prove that his car wasn't handling good because it was late in the race. He was on bad tires. All of that. He made a really good case. He also had a case.
The case of not affecting the outcome of
right.
the race. Number 2 that he was hit with.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because him and Ross wasn't fighting for the lead.
Right, they wasn't fighting for the lead.
They wasn't up front.
No, they didn't spin out. They both continued.
Right.
So what was happening up front continued to happen. He had no bearing on the outcome of this race. And that they were both fighting for position. He wasn't a lap down. He wasn't 3 laps down. They were both fighting for this position, which is expected, right? And then the third one was actions detrimental.
Let's take a step back. You brought up earlier when you and I was talking how, he presented his case of we wasn't fighting for position up front. We were back here doing our thing.
Mm-hmm.
But he even presented the case of last year at Bristol when Chase Elliott came out of the pits and intentionally blocked Kevin Harvick. That did affect the outcome of a race because Kevin was fighting for the lead on Kyle Larson. You and I were there. But he presented that to the board as well.
And he even presented their radio chatter that said, when you go out there, he was, let me know where the 4 is at so I can help the 5.
Right.
So he basically gave proof that Chase went out there to slow Harvick down so that Larson could win the race to help his teammate, which was not penalized in any way.
No, it wasn't even, well, I mean, it was talked about, but there was no penalty discussed for that.
Right, not even a black eye.
Right.
So he had a few examples of that. He said, I'm not even going back to the 90s or the early 2000s.
Really, he had really good points.
He did. He had really good points on everything that he presented. And if you go to it, his podcast is Actions Detrimental, and it's only like a 30-minute episode, and they kind of cut right to the chase. So it's a really good listen if you get time. Then maybe you might be able to maybe see things from his side, whether you're a Denny Hamlin fan or not. I know there's a lot of people out there that are not. I know you're not one. I'm not really a fan. He doesn't really affect me, positive or negative.
I'm not. I'm not a big Denny Hamlin fan, but I'll never say this person's wrong because I don't like them. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I mean, I'm all about the fair and equal justice. Right. You know, if it calls for a penalty, penalize them. I don't care if they're my favorite driver or not.
Right.
You know.
Exactly.
And I just feel like after listening to him, if everything he said was true, which why would he have a reason to lie? I mean, hell, the guy come right out and said, yeah, I took him out.
Right. I mean, speaking on that same point, going back to Bristol last year when Chase did that to Kevin Harvick, I like Chase Elliott. Mm-hmm. I like the kid, but I could have beat his ass last year.
I guarantee
you. You know what I'm saying?
No, I seen your face. You was steaming.
Yeah, I was looking for him. I was going to ass punch him.
You might have been madder than Harvick was. Hold on, you were going to ass punch him?
Have you ever been punched in the ass?
No.
It hurts. Think about that. I'm not playing. You can't even walk.
I fell off the bike and hit the bar in the front.
No, that's between a bit. Get punched in an ass cheek, it hurts. It cramps you up, and it affects the way you walk. And
I'm just okay. I've never thought of it like that, but yeah, you're right.
When I get really mad, I'll ass punch somebody. I won't hit them in the face.
I've done lost all my train of thought now. But anyway, Denny made really good points, and he even said the people on the appeals board he thought was pretty favorable for him, because one of them was the head of Bowman Gray Stadium, which, like he said in his podcast, I feel like I'm repeating a lot of it, and I might be, but Bowman Gray makes their living off of wrecks and controversy and drama and all that stuff. So he thought, hey, this might work out good for me,
Right.
But in the end, it didn't. They just kind of broke for 15 minutes to decide what they were going to decide. And he come back and he said it's all upheld, penalty, monetary, it's all upheld. So I don't understand that one.
Basically, like we talked earlier, he's being penalized for being honest.
Right.
And that's all it comes down to.
Yeah, and he even said, so are you penalizing me for my actions on the track, or are you penalizing me for my words? And they said, point blank, we're penalizing you for your words. And that is not a good precedent to establish.
Right, yeah.
Because there's a lot of guys that say a lot of things in the heat of the moment that now you have to start penalizing for.
Yep.
If you're going,
you just set the bar. You set the tone for.
Yeah.
Anybody says anything remotely close to admitting something, you're going to have to penalize them now, because you penalized Denny Hamlin for it.
Even if it's 3 days later.
Yep.
And that's, to me, I don't like that. I just think that's a bad can of worms to open.
Well, these guys are athletes.
Yeah.
They are.
They're top level athletes.
Absolutely. So, these guys, they got skin in the game. They're passionate about their job, their sport, their career. They're going to be vocal at some point. You shouldn't penalize people for that. Because, if you just take some average Joe out there who don't give two shits about NASCAR, he might wreck or he might win.
Yeah.
But he ain't going to be vocal about anything, because he's not passionate about it.
Right.
But we want the best of the best out there doing their job, entertaining us, and performing for us. But on the same note, a real NASCAR fan wants these guys to be honest and express emotion.
Yeah.
We do.
And we like hearing that radio chatter.
Absolutely.
Because that's when they're in
the heat of the moment.
Exactly. That's when you get the honest, raw stuff. And now, do you have to penalize for the radio chatter? Because, as we've seen at Bristol, Ryan Preece and Kyle Larson, there was talk on the Ryan Preece radio, if I get my chance, I don't know the exact words that he used, retaliate or getting back.
Right.
And do you penalize for that? You're setting the bar here. So they're trying to make things more transparent on the NASCAR side, but at the same time, they're not doing themselves any favors with the things like this Hamlin penalty. And it's a
fine line to walk.
It's a very fine line to walk, and we're finding that out. It seems like every week that line is getting just a little bit thinner and a little bit thinner. And where does the stopping point come in at? Because I'm a fan and I like to keep up with the penalties and I like to know what's going on, but at the same time, you don't want to talk about penalties every week, because that just kind of takes away from the action on the track. And it completely goes away from the boys have at it that we heard 10, 15 years ago or longer. And I'm all for boys have at it, and I don't know of anybody that's against it,
right?
Including the drivers.
Here's how I would handle that if I'm a passionate NASCAR team. When you come into pit, my jack man is going to say, let's say it's let's go. I don't know. Let's go Roush.
Okay.
Team, Roush, Fenway, Keselowski. And you have this kind of issue happening out there on the track where they're being careful. They're not talking on the air. So you got Brad Keselowski and Chris Buescher on Roush, Fenway, Keselowski. So somebody's done messed up Keselowski's outcome.
Yeah.
When Chris Buescher comes into the pit and I'm that crew chief, I'm going to say, hey, Jack, man, when he pulls in, I want you to yell in the window, take out number so-and-so that affected Brad. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now you're going to get off the air communication.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's not a good thing.
Yeah.
We just because it's the fans like to hear the on air
Mm-hmm.
passionate discussions that they sometimes have.
Oh yeah, I mean that's why we rent those headphones. That's why we rent those scanners to listen to all that, because we want to hear that driver cuss somebody out. We
Right.
want to hear him discussing strategy with their crew chief. We love that. That's a lot of the reason of why we even go to the track, because we could watch the race on TV, but when you go to the track, you can get that scanner, you can get that.
You feel like you're part of it.
Yeah, and we don't want to take that away.
Yeah.
In any way. We want these drivers to be, like you said, passionate. We want them to
Show their emotions.
Yeah, I want to see that.
Yeah.
Even if they're
I don't want to see no crying.
No, I don't want to see no crying, but even when I know we give Bubba a hard time on this channel a lot, and a lot of it's well deserved. Some of it may not be, but a lot of it is. And it's like when he took out Larson, and we go back to this situation a lot, because it was obvious, it was and everything that it was, so we go back to that a lot. Even when he gets out of the car, he didn't admit to anything, but you could just see the anger on his face. You knew when he was talking.
You knew what was going to happen before he even got close to Kyle Larson.
Right. And when you could see that he was pissed off, you could hear what he was saying, and you knew it wasn't true, but you could still see the emotion. And that's what we want. Even though I don't agree with putting a microphone in front of a driver's face as soon as he gets out of a car, it's probably not that's not a good idea.
Right.
I'd wait a couple of hours, but
I mean, I'm more in favor of letting them go at it.
Yeah.
And not punishing them for that than I am for tying their hands even more. Right,
because now you're not letting the best in the business be the best in the business. Mm-hmm. Each driver has a certain skill set, or a way that they drive, a certain way that they do things that got them to this point and this level. And if you're going to tie their hands now they can't be who they was that got them here. Now they have to be somebody else once they get to the top, and you don't want that. Let's look back over the years. If you take Dale Sr., he was always known as a rough driver. Never got penalized for it. He'd always speak his mind. He basically, as soon as he get out of the car, yeah, I wrecked you, and then he'd give you that smile and he'd keep on walking. Nothing was ever done. But
everybody knew it.
And everybody knew it. And he knew everybody knew it.
Yeah.
Didn't care.
I didn't mean to dump you.
Yeah.
And he just kind of...
Just meant to rattle your cage a little bit.
Right.
But, and that's kind of what they're doing now. But yet we're getting penalized, or we're getting fined for our words. And I don't like that precedent.
Yeah. NASCAR doesn't need to change with the world. You know what I'm saying? And the world is changing to a very sensitive bullshit world now. We all know that.
Oversensitive.
Right. Overly sensitive.
Very.
And NASCAR doesn't need to change with that.
No.
NASCAR was always a roughneck, good old boy sport, and it needs to stay that way. That's why they have the fans. There ain't nobody says I'm a fan of watching cars go left all day. You know what I'm saying? It's about the sport, and the sport just ain't about the cars going around the track.
Right.
The sport is it says a lot about somebody's personality that they like NASCAR. You know what I mean? It's I don't know how you call it. It's not a sport. It's kind of a lifestyle.
Yeah, it's everything involved with it. It's not just cars going around in a circle. It's the way Joey Logano is, or it's the way Kyle Larson is. It's the way Brad Keselowski is. And each one of these drivers have their own personality, their own driving style, their own...
How they mesh.
Yes. And so to put all of these different styles...
And personalities,
even though they're not the same, they're all at the top level. They're all considered the best of the best, even though they're not the same. And that's not something that you get in every other sport like basketball. You got these top basketball players. Well, LeBron James is in a lot of ways very similar to Michael Jordan.
Just
even though they're not the same. Yeah, just not as good. One's the GOAT and one's a pretty good ball player, but their skill set is a lot the same. Whereas, and same with baseball or football, you got two quarterbacks, their skill set's a lot the same.
I mean, you
They
look
got
at
them there.
Yeah, you look at Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady, two greats.
Yeah.
Two greats that our generation has watched.
Mm-hmm.
Totally different play styles, but they're both great.
Yeah.
They are. I mean, they're both Hall of Famers. They're both multiple Super Bowl winners.
Yeah.
But two totally different ways of playing the game.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the fans enjoy.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've seen 32 Tom Brady's out there,
it'd be vanilla.
It'd be, yeah, exactly.
And we don't want that.
And that's what I hope NASCAR keeps an eye on is don't tie these hands too much to where the sport becomes bland.
Yes. Because once it goes bland, it's tough to come back from that.
Yeah.
So that's all that happened this week. And then we had a race.
Yeah.
We had...
I think the Bristol dirt race this week, I think it was a good race.
It was.
Yeah,
Very good race. I think it was the best dirt race that they've had so far.
I agree. The track was phenomenal.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing.
It was a classic dirt racing track, And
looked smooth as silk before they started racing.
Right.
I mean, and you don't see that a lot with dirt tracks.
Right. And the one time out of the 3 years they've had this race now, the one time they've had the perfect racetrack, look who won. A dirt racer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had some hoopties there. I think it was turn 3 or 4.
Mm-hmm.
3 and 4. They had about 6 or 7 hoopties out there on that track, and that's what dirt guys call their hoopties. Big old potholes, basically. They had a lot of them. But other than that, sometimes those hoopties will help you. Sometimes they don't.
It makes it a more interesting race.
Yeah.
Because now we're going to see what these drivers could do to either use them or avoid them. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Some they're going to hurt, some they're going to help.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And that's the beauty of dirt in my mind. Dirt racing is a totally different. It's just a totally different way of racing that a lot of people don't.
Well, as the track conditions change, you have to change.
Yes.
And that's what makes it great.
That's what makes it incredible, because when you start the race, the track is going to be a certain way. 20 laps in, it's going to be different. 20 laps after that, it's going to be more different. 20 laps after that, it's going to be even more different. So that track is always evolving, just like your car is, just like your tires are. And that's where a true wheelman, a true racer, somebody that's paying attention to not only his car but the track. Like you go to Martinsville, that track's going to be the same. Now it's going to lay down a little bit of rubber. The track temperature is going to change, but that's basically about it.
They can plan for that. But they also when they're on asphalt or concrete or whatever,
mm-hmm.
you can have green flag pit stops to adjust your car if you need to.
Yeah.
Dirt, you don't.
No.
So that's what makes it great is these guys are out there with a track that's evolving, with a car that's evolving. Now it's all on the driver, because you take your pit crew out of the variable.
Yeah.
So it's on the driver now. That's why I love it.
That's what I was going to say. With some of these other tracks, you got the pit stops, like you were saying, to evolve your car to the driver. When you go to dirt, that driver is evolving to the car and the track. So that driver is always changing. He always has to not only know what line these other guys are running, but be able to change his line maybe to get around them. Because if you're both running the same line, you're not going to get anywhere, right? You're just going to follow the leader. So you have to be able to go down low or go up high. And that's not always easy.
Just like the Navy SEALs say, adapt and overcome.
Adapt and overcome, that's right. And that's exactly what dirt racing is.
Right.
The best car doesn't always win. I mean, and that's in all of racing, I understand that, but it's especially true in dirt, because what a lot of people don't understand, if you don't have any experience on dirt, when that track starts getting black, and you see that with most dirt tracks.
Yeah.
Some tracks are more notable for doing that, and that black part of the track is hard as a rock. I mean, it is just like going out here on the highway, and it's that hard, but there is absolutely no grip on that whatsoever.
It's slick.
It's slick, and that's why they call it black slick. So when you get down there and you throw that car into that curve on that black part of the track, you're sliding up, and that's where you get a lot of slide jobs.
Mm-hmm.
But when that track, the brown part of that track, it's real sticky, it's real tacky, has a lot of moisture still in it.
That's why you see the ass end of these cars up high.
Mm-hmm. You see that right rear hugging that brown part of the track.
The front wheels are on the black.
Yes.
So they can adjust easily, steer easily, and their back end is getting that traction.
Yes. So that is, somebody must be here. I hear the dog barking.
Yeah. Might be Chase Elliott after that ass bunch comment.
Guard dog's always watching. But yeah, that when it comes to dirt, that's the thing. And as that black part of the track moves up, you're getting less and less tacky. And so these drivers, they want the tacky. They don't want the black. They don't want to race on this black part because that's not where the grip is. So as they move up, so does the black part. They run that little bit of brown. After a little while, it becomes black. And they're always moving up.
You want to slowly work up, if anything.
Yes. And usually when you see these guys, like you've seen Kyle Busch a lot on this race, he would just jump up top. Even early in the race when there wasn't a whole lot of black on the track, he was going ahead and he was starting to establish that lane up there. That way when people couldn't use that bottom anymore, they were having to come up to his line, but he was already using it and he was already getting around people. And you can carry that momentum off the curves a lot better with the dirt when you're going up high. And that's the lower part of the track is the slower part of the track. That high groove is faster, carries that RPM off the turn and stuff, and that's what we were seeing a lot of. But
fantastic race.
It was incredible race. I loved it. I know we keep hearing a lot of people saying, "Hey, we shouldn't be out here doing this." Even Kyle Larson said we don't need to be racing on dirt. I know we've heard a lot of guys that aren't really dirt guys been saying that past couple of years.
I'm more for dirt than I am road courses.
I am too.
Period. Just because of the.
For me, it's the excitement aspect.
The nostalgia of NASCAR. That's where that's NASCAR's roots.
Right.
So if anything, let's go more dirt and less road course. That's my opinion.
I would love to see them be on an actual dirt track.
I'd love to see them at Eldora. That's where I think they need to be. I mean, that's a beautiful track. They got plenty of parking. The atmosphere is freaking phenomenal. I mean, it's a blast every time you go there.
And you carry a lot of speed on that track.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great dirt track.
I mean, even these dirt late models, which have more horsepower than a NASCAR, hardly ever letting off the throttle.
Right.
You just throwing it in there and carried it
around.
And
I know Tony Stewart I'm talking about, he pushed for NASCAR to go to Eldora before they even decided to go to Bristol. I don't know what the falling out was, but it was some bullshit.
I'm sure it was,
But, on the same note, he had the right idea.
He had the vision before it was there. And I mean, I understand and I see their aspect because Bristol will hold 120,000 people. I'm sure you can add some bleachers to Eldora. You can add some seats.
And it may have something to do with there's not a huge amount of stuff around Eldora. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like how Kentucky Motor Speedway was.
Well, we've been to Bristol. There ain't a whole lot around there, except a Greek restaurant.
What else you need? I mean,
Not
we got a cooler, a porta potty, and a Greek restaurant, and a racetrack. Boy,
yep.
Come on.
But I agree. I would love to see. I would love to see them in Eldora.
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
It would be great.
Keep pushing for it, Smoke.
Yep. Keep pushing for it. Let bygones be bygones. Keep pushing for it. I think it would happen. If the fans, especially if the fans speak out.
Yeah.
NASCAR seems to listen to the fans.
I mean, they had a Chicago street race this year. Yeah. So next year, let's add a Eldora dirt race.
Yeah. Let's see how it goes. That's what we're doing with Chicago,
I mean,
right?
I think why not have a dirt race in the Chase?
I think we should.
You know what I'm saying? We got road course, we got super speedway, we got short track.
Throw a dirt race in
What are
there.
we missing?
Yeah.
We're missing a dirt.
I agree.
So let's throw a dirt race in the Chase, and I think Eldora would be a perfect place for it.
Oh, yeah. That'd make it interesting, wouldn't
Heck yeah, it would.
I don't, a lot of people saying I don't think we should be racing Bristol on dirt. I definitely do not want to see Bristol get a date taken away.
No.
I think that is one of the
Keep
tracks.
Keep the Bristol dirt.
Keep the Bristol dirt. Keep the fall race, the night race in the fall. I think Bristol, like we've said before, Bristol's one of those tracks that deserves 2 races.
Absolutely.
I mean, I would not be offended if they went 3 races at Bristol in a year. But,
there's tracks that we're hitting twice a year.
Yeah.
That we don't need to be.
Right.
And I'm talking Vegas, Phoenix, Atlanta.
Yeah, I was big on the let's not go to Pocono twice, and they got rid of a second Pocono, so
right.
I'm good with that.
Yeah, that's great. Now, just like Charlotte, they do the Charlotte, the Coke 600, the normal Charlotte race, and then they got the Charlotte GP, the road course, or the Roval.
Yeah.
I wish they'd do the same thing at Indianapolis. They took the Brickyard 400 away, and they installed the Indy GP. To me, it's like, do the same thing you're doing. I mean, Indy, of all places. Yeah. I mean, Indianapolis is the heart and soul of racing, period, worldwide.
Yeah.
Let's make an Indy GP, and let's keep the Brickyard 400.
Right. I mean, the people will come.
Yeah.
It will hold the people.
Yeah.
And that's amazing facility.
And Bristol, it should keep minimum 2 races a year. Talladega, 2 a year. Daytona, 2 a year.
Yep.
And,
I'm even good with Martinsville 2 a year,
right.
just because it's a short track.
Yeah, you gotta love the paperclip.
Yeah, which is where we're going this week. So, as far as Bristol, it was a great race. I'd picked I'd picked Chase Briscoe to win. He almost made it, and I picked him before I knew he had a broken finger, which I don't know. I might have still picked him. I don't know.
But that's even unheard of. Most athletes in basketball, football, baseball, they don't play with broken finger anymore.
No,
I mean, that'll take somebody out for 8 weeks.
Yeah.
In other sports, these guys are men.
You see a lot of these NBA guys. They get a little sore toe when they're not playing.
It's probably camel. With that sport.
Right, but these guys, and you hear them all the time. I mean.
Yeah, out with a broken pinky toe.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
But these drivers, their arm could be hanging by a limb, and they're just duct tape it and get me in the car.
Yeah, just tape it to the shifter.
Yeah. Just something to put me in the car. So that shows their passion, and that's what I like.
These guys are true freaking athletes.
Yeah, they're very passionate about what they do, and they're not going to get out of that car for nothing because they don't want to see anybody else driving their car. And Chase, even with a broken finger, was still fighting for the lead. And on a dirt race, you're wrestling that wheel. It's not easy. Your car has to be set up perfectly to not be wrestling that thing around. And so for him to do what he did is amazing.
Right, and most athletes these days, they take the easy way out.
Yeah.
Chase Briscoe would have still got a paycheck whether he was in that car or not. You know what I mean? It wasn't like he was doing it to feed his family. He's doing it because he's a man and he loves his job.
Right. He's passionate about what he does.
Absolutely.
So, and that's what most racers are about at any level. Even the grassroots here at the local tracks.
Even the Thursday Night Thunders over in Brownstown, Indiana.
Exactly. They're going to get out there in that car and they're going to do what they do.
I mean, the Icebreakers in March.
Yeah.
They're out there in freezing cold weather.
That's right. We don't care.
You got a buddy heater right next to me. But anywho, at the Bristol race, at the dirt race, I took Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and I was freaking pleased to get a 4th place.
Yeah, I seen him early down there in the back, and I thought, uh-oh.
Oh, I was hoping.
But he came up there.
I was pulling for him. I just kept waiting for him to screw me, but he pulled it out for me.
Yeah.
He saved me there, so pat on the back to Ricky.
Yeah, it was a pretty good race. I mean, the only drama we got, I know my wife picked Logano. She was very disheartened by that. We might talk about that in a little bit, but because that had something to do with our fantasy standings. But she was very disheartened by Logano's performance, and I thought he would have done a lot better than what he did. But
well, I mean, that just shows you. I mean, I mean, Logano's got a win there.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of 3 people to get a win on the dirt.
Yeah.
And pat on the back to Joey for doing it.
And he dominated the truck race just the night before.
Right. So, I mean, but that just goes to show that, I mean, you can't, dirt races are very unpredictable.
It's not a gimme, that's for sure.
So.
And the only drama that come out of that was, the Ryan Preece, Kyle Larson incident, which...
I wasn't displeased with it.
No, I wasn't displeased with the race at all. I mean, I think it was a spectacular race. It was the best of the three.
Even with the words back and forth and, the...
Oh, yeah, the Larson Preece?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate that,
Well, that's part of the whole racing is the drama part. And, of course, you're a Stewart Haas guy, so you're Stewart Haas guy punted Larson, so... and I'm a Larson guy. I'm not a Hendrick guy, but I'm a Larson guy.
Yeah, I know.
So
yeah,
but,
I was cheering Preece on there.
Yeah,
I ain't gonna lie about it.
Yeah, I think Preece got a little bit fussy for no reason early on. What caused the whole incident was he had a run coming off of one of the turns. I don't know if it's turn 2 or turn 4, but he was going down the straightaway, and he had a good run up there by the wall. And Larson came up and kind of blocked him, slowed that run down, and he got mad about that. And he bumped him.
Right, but we're not on asphalt. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So.
And here's the thing, with this dirt, most dirt cars don't have rear view mirrors. You don't race with a mirror on dirt.
If you're looking back, you're looking the wrong way. You're worried about the wrong shit.
Exactly. Keep your eyes out that windshield and do what you need to do. Now with this, and this is one of the problems I see with Bristol dirt, is you're running the rear view mirror, which is not in any other form of dirt that I'm aware of, and you're running a windshield. I believe that windshield is a safety issue on these cars.
I agree.
It also affects the outcome of a race. NASCAR, if you're listening, that windshield hinders the drivers in so many ways. I know they got the tear-offs, but you don't have a green flag. You don't have pit stop opportunities to take that thing off. Drivers should not be driving around with a duster inside the car to wipe off their windshield, in my opinion. So, we have these short track packages. We have the super speedway packages. Now we have these rain packages. All these different setups for the car. Why can we not just have a dirt setup to where we take out the rear view mirrors, we take out the windshield? Everything else on the car can be like a NASCAR, but
right.
I just feel like you're going to get a better race if you take that windshield out.
Right.
Because you see the in-car on some of these, and they can't see out the windshield. I don't know how they're driving. How can you expect this guy to go out there?
They're driving because they got a spotter in their ear. That's how they're doing it.
Yeah, and that shouldn't be the way.
Right.
The spotter should not be driving that car.
Because, we see radio communication faults all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And if that guy loses communication, now we're talking a big safety issue.
Right.
But no, and that's why I say maybe add another dirt race to the circuit, throw it in the chase. But because you got Bristol dirt, 1/3 of the way into the season, you got 36 races a year, so 35 weeks of the year, 35 races of the season, you do go high to block.
Mm-hmm.
You don't do that on dirt. I'm not going to say you don't do it, but...
You don't know you're doing it intentionally.
Right, exactly.
Yes,
it's a habit because you're doing it 35 out of 36 races.
Yeah.
And maybe getting these guys more in tune with dirt by adding a second dirt race would help. But not only that, I'm saying my main reason for saying this is add a dirt race is because you and I go to dirt races.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see some of these guys get more opportunity into NASCAR. Like
the Davenports.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was hoping he would do a lot better than he did.
Well, but if, in all honesty, if you'd have put him in a late model with the other 36 guys out there, he probably would have done better.
Yeah.
It's just a different car. But it gave him a taste of what NASCAR is.
Right.
Because I think he's more than capable of handling that job.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And I have no doubt. But it was a great race. Like we said, we'd like to see more of that, more short tracks in general, dirt and asphalt. Which we're going to see another one this week at Martinsville.
Yep, the paperclip. Love it. Now, we're recording this on a Thursday right now, so
Yeah.
our we can discuss other things other than Martinsville, but we can discuss, who we're taking with our fantasy league. But as far as Martinsville go,
throwing fantasy out.
Yeah.
Who's your top drivers?
My top drivers, and these are the three that I was considering, even because they are my top drivers
At Martinsville.
Yeah. So I've got three drivers and a dark horse. So one of them was Kyle Busch. He's one of my top three. Denny Hamlin and Ryan Blaney. That's the three I was going between.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, I think Kyle Busch is going to do it.
You think so?
I do. He don't have the best record there out of all them NASCAR drivers.
True.
But he's in a Chevy now.
That's right. That's going to put him up front.
Yeah, it should. We'll see. I'm putting a lot of faith in that bow tie this weekend.
Yeah, you are. That's unlike you.
But no, I'm doing it more for Kyle Busch than I am the bow tie. You know, I mean, Chevy makes a great product. I ain't gonna lie. We like to bust each other's balls and shit, but there's good Fords, there's good Chevys, and there's lemons out there of every kind. So
those are called Toyotas.
Right. Yeah. But that's the three I was going with because, and I know I'm saying that's a three that I was deciding between for the fantasy league, but I'm in that position now to where I'm gonna start using. I'm not gonna be taking chances on. I think this guy, he's got a 2% chance to win. I'm gonna save my drivers and this and that, but this is legit. Not fantasy at all. Those are the three guys I was looking at getting the win this weekend was Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, or Ryan Blaney. Mm-hmm. And that's a Chevy, Toyota, and a Ford, and I wasn't even trying to do that.
Yeah.
But my dark horse was Chase Briscoe.
That is a dark horse.
Yep.
That is a dark horse. Well, when I think of Martinsville, I think of a couple, two or three drivers. Of course, you always got Martin Truex. It's Martin Truexville. It's obviously it's one of his tracks that he's done the best on. You always think of Denny Hamlin. Denny does pretty good there. Always think of Brad Keselowski. He does pretty good. I don't know of a dark horse at Martinsville. Let me see. I'd have to think. I just don't know. I can't come up with a dark horse right now.
Bowman's a good dark horse.
Well, yeah.
You know, he's in a strong car.
Mm-hmm. And I don't usually think of Byron at Martinsville or a Blaney. Blaney would probably have to be my dark horse if I had to pick one. But I always think of Logano too at Martinsville. He always does pretty good.
Yeah.
But I didn't pick any of those. I picked Byron in the fantasy thing. So
I went with Kyle Busch in the fantasy league. Mm-hmm. But I think he's going to roll out this weekend, boy. I think he's going to put on a show. I think he's going to get an early lead, and he's going to keep that car clean.
And this track is a lot similar to the Clash. It's a short track. I mean, obviously longer straightaways, but tight corners, just like Martinsville and at the Clash. And he did good there. He finished, second or third? I think he got third. Did Dylan get second, or was it vice versa?
Dylan got second, I believe.
Okay, so
but them RCR cars have been strong all year, no matter where they've been.
Yeah.
Every track. You didn't really worry about seeing an RCR car up front unless it was at a super speedway.
Yeah.
But Austin came great lengths in the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, and he's really making strides this year. Now that he's got Busch there with him.
More so than any year.
Yeah.
And
I was just talking to HR before we went on here. HR Scotty. He said he was debating on taking Austin Dillon at this race, and I thought, really? He said, oh yeah, yeah. So I'm gonna keep an eye on Austin Dillon. We'll see what HR is. See what he's looking at.
Yeah.
See what he's thinking.
HR.
You never know.
He keeps an eye on a lot of things.
He does.
I'll tell you.
Sometimes he keeps an eye on too much stuff.
Right.
But
and he lets us know about it.
Oh, every time. Every time. He said he had some complaints. He hasn't vented them to us yet, but
yeah,
we will hear about them. I'm sure.
If anybody out there listening does have complaints, like I said, we'll put HR's number on there before too long.
We'll always listen to your complaints, but we'll forward every one of them to HR,
right.
And that will get straightened out immediately.
Yeah, he'll tell you exactly.
Our HR does not mess around.
No punches held.
No, he doesn't even.
Don't be sensitive if you're going to call that
number. Yep. He's going to let you know the most direct way.
Yeah, we don't need any snowflakes calling that number at all.
No. Nope, he'll let you know you're a snowflake too.
But while we're on the topic of Martinsville, and we didn't discuss this earlier, nothing like that, but you got any favorite memory of Martinsville? We've talked about this in the past with other tracks.
I do. Martinsville is one of the tracks that I've been to twice. It was actually the very first NASCAR race that I've been to. Back in, I think it was 99 maybe. 98, 99, I don't remember.
Can you go with Doug?
Yes. Yeah. I went with Doug and another guy that we will not mention, which was Doug's best friend. Pretty good friend of mine at the time. Long since been disassociated with the boys. But we went there just on a whim, on a road trip. And it was my very first NASCAR race. And it pissed me off because Jeff Gordon won. Jeff Gordon had a dominant car, but I do remember at that race, Dale Earnhardt Sr., and it was the only race I was ever at live before Dale Sr. passed away. He was like 2 or 3 laps down in this race, and he come back and he was fighting for the lead late in the race, and he ended up finishing second. So that pissed me off because, my driver got second to a Jeff Gordon. And the other memory that I have is I was at the Martinsville race where Kurt Busch and Tony Stewart got into it. And I think it was it Kurt Busch threw his helmet at Stewart?
No, Stewart.
Was it the other way around?
Yeah, Stewart threw his helmet at Kurt.
I was there and watched that, yeah. That happened in turn 1 and 2.
And then years later, he hires him as a driver.
And then he hires him. So.
But, I mean, he had to hire somebody, and he's been into it with everybody. So,
right,
I mean,
and Kurt's a good driver. I didn't like Kurt at the time, but...
he's a respectable driver.
Yeah, I like.
Oh, he's a good dude.
Yeah.
He called me a while ago. We was shooting the shit a little bit.
Yeah. And I do have an interesting Tony Stewart. I know you're a big Tony Stewart fan, and I'm a Tony Stewart fan. I'm not as big of a Tony Stewart fan as you are, but I've got a couple Stewart stories for you.
I've got.
I know you've got one. You want to share one?
No, it's all right.
Okay.
I'm just saying. I've got three idols in my world. I can't tell you all 3 of them, but 2 of them are Waylon Jennings and Tony Stewart.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So that tells you anything about Justin Moore.
Okay. Well, hold on here. Just because of my curiosity, without you saying it out loud, I'm going to give you a pen and paper and write down that third name.
We'll talk about that. Maybe discuss that one next week.
Oh, okay. I got you. I'll give you that. But I've got a couple Tony Stewart stories you might like to hear. First, I'll go ahead and give you one of them right now. We were just driving through Columbus, Indiana, home of Tony Stewart, and I don't remember where we were going. Just me and my wife was in the car, and this was, I don't remember how many years ago this was.
I remember this date. You sent me pictures.
I sent you pictures while it was happening. Yes, but we're driving through the main strip there in Columbus, and there's just a lot of stores, a lot of restaurants and stuff on each side. I don't remember the name of the street we were on, but we were driving down through there, and as I'm going through, it was a 4-lane highway, right? You got 2 lanes going one way, 2 lanes going the other, and there's like a median lane, a turning lane there in the middle. And as I'm driving up through there, I see this orange Jeep pulling out of a car parts store. And it just caught my eye because it was orange, Orange cars just tend to
It's
catch your
kind
eye.
of a General Lee color, wasn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah,
It was
it'll
General
make
Lee orange.
Yeah.
So it was, perfect right there just by being that.
Right, that's going to catch anybody's eye.
Yeah, and it was open Jeep, no roof on it, no doors on it, no nothing. Basic Jeep. And we're driving down through there, and I'm not in the far right lane, but I'm in the middle lane, right, going this one way. And I passed this Jeep, and something made me think that guy looked familiar. And he had a hat on. He had a t-shirt, shorts on. He had one leg sticking up on the door there, like most people do when they're driving their Jeep. And I thought, he looked familiar. But I went by fast enough to where I couldn't tell who it was, right? So I'm looking in my rearview mirror, and he pulls out, and he's coming my direction. So I'm like, I'm going to slow down a little bit, just take a look at this guy, see if it's who I thought it was. And he's staying in the far right lane. So I'm slowing down even more so he can pull up beside me, right? And we get down through there, and I'm watching this Jeep in my rear view, and it's coming up on me. He's not speeding or nothing. He's abiding by all the rules of the road, So we get to this red light, and I'm the first one at the light. And I stayed in my lane, and I see this Jeep coming up. He's going to be the first one at the light right next to me. And as I see him coming, I was like, that is who I think it was. It was Tony Stewart. So then, naturally, I'm thinking, do I want to run him? Do I want to holler out this window and say, hey, let's go, bud?
You gotta, that stuff's gonna go through your mind.
Exactly. It went through my mind. And I told my wife, she was in the car with me at the time, and I said, hey, this orange Jeep coming up here. I said, this is Tony Stewart. She's like, what? She didn't believe me. I said, I promise you that this guy coming up here beside you, look at him when he comes up here beside you, that's Tony Stewart. And she knows what Tony Stewart looks like, everybody does. But as he's pulling up there beside us, slowing down, she looks, by God, that's Tony Stewart. So she starts taking pictures. And in the far right lane, there's another lane on the other side of him, had this semi was sitting there, and he's kind of looking around. I could see the semi driver looking around, and he's seeing my wife taking pictures of this guy in the Jeep. So he's looking at the guy in the Jeep, and he does like a triple take, right? And my wife Tony even looked at my wife and kind of gave her a head nod, because he seen that she was taking pictures.
Because he's pretty cool.
Yeah, Tony's pretty cool. Tony's pretty cool.
Every time somebody's rolled up to a stoplight taking pictures of me, I always give him a head nod.
I guarantee it. And so that driver kind of looks, and then he realizes he's sitting beside Tony Stewart. So he rolls down his window. Hey, Tony, how's it going? Tony gives him the head nod, like he did. And then the light went green. I turned left. Tony went straight. And so I thought, well, that's pretty cool. I had to pull over, and that's when I sent you the pics. I was like, you ain't going to believe this shit, but
right.
I just seen Tony Stewart. And then you wouldn't believe, I was watching something on YouTube maybe 6-8 months after that incident that I guess Tony Stewart was taking Jeff Gordon around his garage, right?
Yep.
Right.
Showing him the cars.
Yeah, showing him all the race cars and different things. That orange Jeep was in the background.
Yep.
Had the hood up at the time, right next to all the toolboxes and stuff. I said, that's the Jeep that we seen him in, so that just kind of verified everything. But that was one of my Tony Stewart stories. I've got another one for you that we'll save for another time.
Well, I'll go ahead and fill everybody in on mine, but now this story's going to come with some controversy, probably with...
No, not a story from you, I don't believe that.
Probably with my better half, because I have trouble remembering our anniversary, but I can tell you right now, this has been a handful of years ago, and it was on a Monday at 2 o'clock when I met Tony Stewart. So,
do you remember what you were wearing?
I do. I've got evidence of it. And I can tell you what fishing lure I was looking for when I met Tony Stewart. So I went to Bass Pro. I was off work on a Monday, and me and the old lady, we went to Bass Pro. The kids were at school and everything. I needed some fishing lures, so we head over to Bass Pro there in Clarksville, Indiana, and ain't nobody in the store. I mean, there's literally like 7 people in the store on a Monday at 7 o'clock or 2 o'clock. Yeah. So I mean, there's not a lot she's going to be interested in the store. She's not an outdoors girl,
right.
But she's my girl. So she goes to look at the fish tank or go upstairs, wherever she went. I said, I'm going to look for these lures. I was in the lure aisle myself nobody else around. So I get to the section that I'm looking for these lures. Well, the lure I need is on the bottom section of hooks. So I squat down and sitting here looking at these lures, the color and the lure that I'm looking for. Now I'm just looking for the right weight. So, but I'm in the squat position for a few minutes looking at these, and I noticed somebody coming down the aisle from my peripheral vision.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody coming down the aisle. So naturally, being a good man that I am, you scoot forward a little bit so they can walk behind you.
Right.
Well, he goes on and walks behind me, and just keeps right on walking. So my knees are getting to me by this point. So as soon as he gets past me, I kind of turn my head to the right to make sure he's past me before I stand up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when I looked to the right, I seen him right there at the end of the aisle. He was just going around the corner. So I stood up and I was son of a bitch, that was Tony Stewart. And
he was right next to you.
No.
He walked past you.
Yeah,
so
he walked right
next
behind me.
Yeah.
He could have gave me a wedgie, you know what I mean? It was that close.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so he walks on past me, and I just turned to make sure that the gentleman going past me was out of the way before I stood up.
Right.
I'm not a small guy, so when I stand up, I'm going to take up the aisle.
That's true.
So I stand up, he's going around the corner, and I said, "Hey," just like that. And he stopped.
Get back here.
He stopped dead in his tracks, and he kind of just took a step back, and I said, "You're Tony Stewart." Now,
no, you're telling Tony Stewart that he's Tony Stewart.
Yeah, absolutely,
okay.
I am. Because I expected him to go, "You're Justin Moore."
Right.
Right.
As he should have.
He didn't,
okay.
and we had to talk about that. But
I bet you did.
So I said, "Hey," and he stopped, and he just kind of mid stride, he stopped and turned around and looked at me. I said, "You're Tony Stewart." And he just looked at me and smiled, and he said, "Yeah." All by himself. I mean, you'd think this guy...
Think he'd have an entourage.
Well, not even that. You think he'd have security. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Tony can handle himself.
Right.
But,
I know he can.
But,
yeah.
I mean, somebody at that level, I'm expecting like Secret Service shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Joe Biden could have walked through there. I wouldn't have known.
Right.
Known he was even in the room.
Some old man.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Walking into walls. But anyhow, Tony looked at me and smiled, and he said, "Yeah." So I'll start walking his direction, and he starts walking my direction. I mean, it was like that scene in every movie. You know what I'm saying? You're running towards each other.
Was there music playing?
In my head, probably in Tony's head too. Well, anywho, I get over to Tony. I shake his hand. I said, "Man," I said, "I'm a huge fan of yours." I said, "You probably wouldn't believe me if I told you, and it probably sounded a little weird if I did, of how big of a fan I am."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I watched you race at Brownstown, watched your dad race over there, just a huge fan. And I said, I appreciate everything you do for the sport. Love watching you on TV. And he said, "Well, thanks. And he said, "What's your name?" I said, "Justin Moore." And so he knows now.
Yeah.
So, anywho.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's a friend of the show. I mean, he knows you now after that.
Yeah, Tony and I are buds.
Yeah.
So, fist bump, Tony.
Mm-hmm.
So anyhow, Lisa comes. I'm talking to this guy for maybe 5 minutes,
mm-hmm.
and Lisa comes walking from wherever she was coming from, and
now she has no idea who this guy is.
Lisa's not a NASCAR fan. She's not an outdoors fan. She's a Justin Moore fan.
Right.
So.
And there's a lot of them out there.
There is.
I know. I understand.
So she comes walking up, and me and Tony are talking. And I said, "Hey, honey," I said, "this is Tony Stewart." She said, "Who?" "You're fucking embarrassing me, Mom." I mean, and I said, "Tony Stewart."
That guy I talk
Stewart,
about all the time.
Hall of Famer, NASCAR champion. And she's like, "Oh, okay, I got it now."
Yeah.
And she's like, "I know how important this is to you." She's like,
yeah.
And she shook Tony's hand. And he said, "Nice to meet you, Lisa." And she's like, "I'm going to tell you, you don't know what a fan you don't know what a fan of yours is until you meet Justin."
Yeah.
She's like, that you're his man crush. And I'm like, come on, don't make it sound weird, And so she says, She said, well, I was wondering whose hand you was shaking for so long. She said, the whole time I was walking down the stairs coming over here, you were shaking his hand and talking to him. You wouldn't let go of his hand.
That eye contact couldn't be broken.
Right, no.
Right, I understand.
It wasn't. Unicorns could have went to that room and nobody known.
No
You know
way.
what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
So, anyhow, he kind of laughs about it. And he says, well, don't worry, Lisa. He's going home with you.
Yeah.
And I said...
Maybe.
That's exactly... I said, Tony, don't count your chickens yet. I said, Tony, don't count your chickens yet. And he just kind of laughed. I said, depends what you got out there in the parking lot.
Right.
What we're taking home. And he kind of laughed. But I'll tell you what, it was meant to be, because I actually had on a Kevin Harvick shirt that day. And real big across the bottom, it says Stewart Haas Racing. And so me and Tony and Lisa, for part of the time, is standing there for about 45 minutes talking, just about, not even about racing, we're just talking. And I had Lisa take a picture of me and Tony, which, a lot of people have seen, obviously. It's on my wall in my house.
Right.
So me and Tony, we say what we're going to say. We conversate for a while. We go our own ways. And he goes on looking for his fishing lures. And I go on walking through Bass Pro, and I'm looking at these pictures of me and Tony, And Lisa's walking beside me.
She's making sure you don't trip at this point.
Right. She's walking beside me.
That's a good woman right there.
She said, you know what? She said, that'd been cool if you could have got him to sign that shirt. And it was just like, I didn't even think about it.
Right. You had bigger things to think about at the moment.
Right. I was talking with Tony.
Right.
So, and it was like a punch in the face. I'm like, holy shit, I've got a Stewart Hall shirt on. I just talked to Tony.
You missed an opportunity.
I did.
There.
So I go run it up to, I don't know if Tony's still in the store by this
Looking
time.
like a kid running out to recess, probably.
So I go run it up to the customer service desk, and there's some 16, 17-year-old kid working at this counter.
Choked it.
There's some kid working the customer service desk by himself.
You
right?
scared the hell out of this kid.
Oh,
I'm sure
I was running like he just hit my mom. You know what I'm saying? I'm running up there, and I said, "Hey," "let me borrow that marker real quick." And he said, this kid's being calm and collected as could be.
Yeah.
And
well, good for him.
Right. And he says, "My marker?" I said, yes, your fucking marker. Let me have your marker. And he was like, he just picks it up and looks at it. And I'm like, dude, I'll bring it right back. I promise.
Yeah.
I take now this is how serious I am about this. And I'm not exaggerating a bit. I take my wallet out of my back pocket and I slam it down on the counter and take his marker out of his hand and said, I'll be right back. Hold that until I get back. I'll bring your marker back to you.
Right.
Well, I go, I don't even know where Lisa is at this point. When she said, that'd been cool if he signed your shirt, I left her.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm gone.
You'll meet up with her later.
Right. I got blinders on like a racehorse now. I'm going to customer service, get a damn marker, and I'm going to find Tony, because Bass Pro's a big store, and I don't know where he's at. So I grab the marker, leave my wallet on the customer service table, and go running back to where I seen him last.
Uh-huh.
He's not in the fishing lures anymore.
Oh, hell.
Yeah. So next step, do I page Tony Stewart or do I keep running? Because I'm a big boy. Running is a small option.
Right.
So my next thought is, do I page Tony Stewart or do I just keep going? So I went to the fish tank. So I'm like, if he's not at the fish tank, we're going to page Tony Stewart.
Uh-huh.
So I go jogging back to the fish tank. And he's standing there looking at these big fish.
He was?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was standing there.
He's standing right in the middle of the store.
Right in the middle of the store. Nobody around him.
He was probably debating on jumping in that tank and grabbing that fish.
Right.
He's doing noodling that fish.
Exactly. I mean, Tony Stewart's freaking cool. You know, he could noodle in there if he wanted to.
And nobody's going to stop him.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I go up, kind of gently walk up behind Tony and say, "Excuse me, Tony."
Put your hand on his shoulder.
No, I didn't. Okay. I didn't touch him. I didn't want to spook him.
Right.
You know. So I go walking up behind Tony. I said, "Excuse me, Tony." He turns around and he goes, "Hey, Justin." Just like that.
Right there.
He knows.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying? And I said, man, I was too busy talking and everything. I was like, I didn't even realize. I said, I don't wear my Tony Stewart shirts anymore since you retired because I want to keep them. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to wear them out.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't even get most Tony Stewart shirts anymore. I said, but I've got a Kevin Harvick shirt on, and it says right here, Stewart Hoss Racing. I said, because you're my guy, man. And he's like, well, I'll tell you what, Justin. If you're not wearing a Tony Stewart shirt, that's the next best shirt you can wear. I said, you're damn right it is. And I said, would you do me a favor and sign it for me? He goes, absolutely. Now, and it's, I've got the shirt still at home.
I know you do.
Yeah. So it's, so I had him take that permanent marker, sign my shirt. He signed it right there.
Sign right on the titty?
Right up on the muscle part of the
About
titty.
midway between titty and shoulder.
Right. So
okay,
I mean,
gotcha.
A real good firm spot, you know, so
right.
you could tell exactly what that was.
Yeah.
So he signed it. We talked for another minute. I said, I know you're in here to do your thing, not be bothered. I said, appreciate your time. Fist bumped him. Dropped the marker like a bike. Walked the fuck back up there to the customer service desk. The boy wasn't even looking. Grabbed my wallet. Went and found Lisa, and we left the store.
Drop the marker.
Like a mic, son. Because you know what? I mean, why wouldn't you drop the marker after he's like, hey, Justin?
Why didn't you keep it?
Well, nah, it wasn't.
Tony Stewart used it.
I've got it, yeah, but I'm not that big of a...
Okay, I got you.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, I've got my shirt, I got my pictures, you know, everything like that, and I got my memory. So...
Yeah. And he's just right up the road.
Right.
You know, anytime.
Right. So... Yeah.
I'm sure maybe he'll be in here one of these days to validate that story, but it is a true story.
Yeah,
I know it's a true story.
My old lady would validate every bit of it.
I guarantee it.
Because she tells people to this day.
I got a phone call right after it happened.
Yeah. I mean, looking back, I almost thought I should have bought some fishing lures and had him sign them. You know, but I didn't want it to turn into a thing for Tony because I'll tell you what, there's been, over the years, and Tony Stewart's a hometown boy for us.
Yeah.
Over the years, there has been so many stories, people, you know, at different, you know, dirt fans and NASCAR fans saying, man, you know, Tony Stewart's a real asshole. You know, he's a prick. He's this and he's that.
He can be.
Who can't be?
Right.
You know
exactly.
what I'm saying? So, you know, I mean, for him to take time out of his day when he didn't have nothing going on, nobody bothered him, stood there and talked to me for 35, 45 minutes, cut up with me and Lisa, and even went back and had him sign my shirt. And we, like I said, we didn't even talk about racing. You know, I don't remember everything we talked about, but he is one of the nicest guys. You know, especially celebrity
and he can be that
level
too. Yes, yes.
Especially at a celebrity level, he was just super nice, super calm, real polite. He was very nice to Lisa, very respectful.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, it just left an impression with me because it's like, you know, I've heard all these shit stories about him being such a prick and everything like that. Now, I will say, anybody in this world, but especially at his level, when you've got 1,000 people crowding around you, or 500 people crowding around you, or 200 people crowding around you, asking questions, putting cameras in your face, wanting you to, just bothering the fuck out of you. You know what I'm saying? It's like mosquitoes. You're going to get
annoyed,
and sometimes aggressive.
Right.
Don't bother me, and don't bother him when they're in that position, when they're in that state. You know, it's don't poke the bear.
Yeah.
But my story is, to set everybody straight, one of the nicest, classiest guys I've ever met.
Yeah, and one of my first times I was at Brownstown before I actually started racing up there, and it was his first year in Winston Cup, so we're looking at 99, 2000, something like that, somewhere in that neighborhood. I don't remember the exact year, but I went there, and it was Tony Stewart night at Brownstown. And the place is packed. You couldn't put another car in the parking lot. But the stands were somewhat empty. So they run the whole show that night. I think the show had dirt late models. At the time, we didn't have the. They were open late models. They were the outlaw, basically. The run what you brung. Just the regular dirt late models at the time. We didn't have the crates back then, is what I'm getting at. So it was late models. I think it was modifieds and regular bombers was the show that night. But there wasn't too many people in the stands. Because Tony Stewart was out there in the parking lot. He had a tent set up. He was autographing, taking pictures and all that. Because it was first year in Cup. Hometown boy in Cup.
Yep.
There must have been a line that stretched around the fairgrounds all night long.
That's a big fairgrounds.
That is a big fairgrounds. And that line was stupid long.
Yeah.
You know, everybody in there was getting Tony Stewart autographs that night. And he signed autographs all night long. I never went and got an autograph because I didn't want to stand in that line. But, because I knew eventually, you know, me and Tony would be cool.
Yeah.
But I didn't get that. But all night long, he just sat there and signed autographs, and I thought that's pretty cool, you know. And it was his rookie year, so nobody at the Cup level knew who Tony Stewart really was, or what he was capable of, or what was coming in the.
They didn't know the storm on the horizon.
Right, but everybody there at Brownstown was getting his autograph. So, and a lot of guys, you know, at that level might say, "I'm going to do this for 2 hours." Or whatever, but he sat there all night long and did it, and I thought that was pretty cool of him. So
yeah, giving something back to the people.
Yeah,
you know, that's where that's where he started. That's his roots. That track right there.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, it's one of them.
So anyhow,
what are you looking forward to this week in Martinsville?
I'm looking to a whole lot of Rubbins racing. That's the normal at Martinsville. But going back to Martinsville, let me give you my best memory of Martinsville. And this ain't about collision. This ain't about a great nose-to-nose finish. I'm a big Clint Boyer fan too.
I like Clint Boyer.
Yeah. Or as they say in the South, Clint Boyer.
Clint Boyer.
Yeah. So you know, his last Cup win was at Martinsville, and I believe, and Clint, you can call me if I'm wrong, correct me, but I believe it was the first win after his little boy was born. And Clint won the race. And that's my favorite memory of Martinsville is when he won that race. His little boy was, he was young, very young. Like he may have been walking for a year or something like that. You know what I'm saying? But Clint won that race, and he came around the track, parked his car, took his helmet off. He wasn't about jumping off the car for the fans or nothing like that, but he climbed out of his car, took his helmet off, and his little boy was already running down the track.
That's awesome.
To him. And, you know, I just remember that. That's burnt in my mind when he climbed out of that car, threw his helmet on top of it, and he turned towards the front of his car, and his little boy, he was just, all you see was elbows going, you know, he's running to Dad, and Clint bends down and picks him up, and, you know, I'm a father of 3 boys and 2 girls, you know, and that really just hit home for me.
Yeah, stuff like that brings a tear to your eye.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
And, you know, that he got to enjoy that with his little boy, that's my favorite Martinsville memory is Clint getting that win, because I'm a fan of Clint, and to see him and his son have that moment at such a young age was awesome.
That is awesome. Well, I'm like you. I'm looking forward to a lot of rubbing, beating, and banging. And
I'd like to see Kevin get a win, Harvick, obviously.
I would like to see Harvick I'd like to see him get a couple wins this year.
I think
I don't think he's going to do it at Martinsville.
He might surprise you.
Kevin's always up for a surprise, I'm sure.
He's always glad to be back on the asphalt. That's why.
Oh, that is true.
He's not a dirt fan.
No,
But and that's why I say he can do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He can pull out a win just about anywhere. You know.
But he's driving a Ford, though. This is like a drag. This is like a drag strip.
Yeah, I know it's not fair to the Chevys.
It's a couple of drag strips with a couple of hairpin turns in there, so it's not going to bode too well for a Ford, I don't think.
Well, Fords will be the only ones to finish the race. They might not have the horsepower that you're saying Chevy's got, but they'll finish the race.
But one of the things I'm looking forward to, and this is probably for fantasy reasons, is, this is one of the tracks that they say is Truex's hometown track because it has Martin right in the name. So I haven't been in trouble with HR for a few weeks now, and that might be a record for me. HR, he's always looking for a reason to yell at me, and I haven't given him one. I thought for sure he was going to get me with Bell hitting Byron a couple weeks ago, but he never did. He didn't. Not too bad.
He's pretty pissed about it, but he didn't beat us up too bad.
No, he didn't beat us up too bad. I thought for sure he will. But this week, I'm kind of. If he's telling me the truth, he told me he picked Truex. Now
he did.
I wouldn't mind seeing Truex getting bumped up into the wall, maybe turned around.
It's not Truexville, but it is Martinsville.
That's right.
Yeah, I always wonder about that.
Yeah. But that's really all I'm looking for. I mean, I'm looking forward to a good race. I mean, Martinsville
usually
never really disappoints.
No, it don't. It's usually a good race.
But I don't know of too many short tracks that do disappoint. So it's one of them. So looking forward to a good race this year. Hopefully it can be drama free as far as penalties and all that jazz. I know one big thing that we forgot to mention. Chase Elliott's going to be back this week.
Yep. Surprised to both of us.
Yes, yeah, we were talking about this before we went on the air here. I don't remember how many weeks he's already been out, but it's been
at least 4
or 5.
5.
If I was him, I would just go ahead and sit out Martinsville and Talladega and come back at Dover.
Right. And we discussed that, and
yes,
just like you and I both agreed on, we were basically saying at the same time. I mean, it's a broken left leg that he went out with.
Yeah.
So Martinsville, there's some shifting and braking involved.
Yeah.
A lot of it.
A lot of braking.
Which, that could put a whooping on your left leg.
That could hurt.
And then of course at Talladega, you've always, and everybody talks about it, you always got to worry about the big one.
Right. Which could hurt it again.
Yeah.
So I am really surprised that he's back, but maybe he's better off than we think he is as far as that leg goes, and he would be a threat to win at Martinsville. Chase Elliott at 100% could win.
Oh yeah.
I think a Chase Elliott at 85% could win at Martinsville. Is he 85% or is he 100%? Is he 70? We don't know.
Well, I think Chase Chase is he's a very sensible person. I feel like I've never met the guy. Mm-hmm. I've never seen him in Bass Pro.
Right.
But not yet.
He shops at Napa.
Right. Mm-hmm. But I think just from seeing him on TV and listening to some of his chit chat and stuff, I think he's a pretty sensible kid. Mm-hmm. Had a very intelligent dad. So I don't think he'd come.
His dad drove a Ford though, didn't he? I think he might be smarter than Dad. If he's driving a Chevy, Dad drove a Ford.
Well, I mean, his dad drove a Ford because he earned it. He didn't.
That's why he
you
never got.
You started a Chevy.
That's why he never got in front of Dale Senior.
No, he didn't get in front of Dale because he wanted to keep that Ford. But anywho, I think Chase is a pretty sensible kid. I think he seems like the type of guy that would listen to his body and know. He's drove Martinsville 100 times already. Yeah. He would know if he could handle it or not. Yeah. And I think if he couldn't, he would be honest with Rick and Jeff and say, hey, I'm going to hold off another week.
Yeah, and you never know. I mean, all this braking and shifting, like you said, may take a toll on that leg, and he might be like, hey, it was a little bit tougher than I thought it would be.
A little too soon.
Yeah, so maybe I'll sit out at Talladega just in case, and I'm sure they wouldn't have a problem with that.
Well, I mean, at Talladega, you shouldn't be using that left leg at all.
No.
But you still have the worry of the big one.
Right.
I mean, most of the guys that are involved in the big one never had anything to do with causing it,
Yeah. Yeah. So it'll be a pretty good show.
Yeah.
I just hope everybody is. I like seeing the drama between the drivers, but I don't want to see the drama as far as penalties and NASCAR having to step in to any of that. So.
But like we talked about, Chase coming back this week. I would like to touch on. I think Josh Berry performed pretty damn well in Chase's absence. I mean, I'm talking about on road courses, on dirt, short tracks. I mean, I think Josh Berry did a hell of a good job.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And Josh Berry does really good at Martinsville. He has had very good success at Martinsville. So um, this, and that's another reason that maybe Chase might be pushing it a little too soon. Just go ahead and let Barry
Well, I
take
mean
that seat.
that's like seeing somebody else out with your wife. You know what
I
I'm
know,
saying?
I
Chase
know.
is looking at TV, seeing somebody in the number 9 Napa car. You know, I mean
it's tough to see.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, you're gonna want to get back here as soon as possible.
Right.
You know.
And I don't think Martinsville is a track that you really want to have a substitute driver for.
No.
You know, because
But
this isn't 1985. You can't just rip out of that car and throw somebody else in it real quick.
Right, but he'd be a good one to have.
Yeah.
As a sub.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he'll be standing by just in case, but I don't think we'll see that take place. But that's really all I've got for Bristol last week, Martinsville this week. We'll see what happens. We'll see what unfolds there in Virginia. So let's get into these standings. You want to? These fantasy standings. We got a little bit to talk about. We've got a couple shout outs to give. I've got a couple positives and one negative.
Go ahead.
My two positives, Josh, he's second in the standings.
Bro.
And anybody can see these standings on ridingthewall.com. They're updated. He's sitting second.
Thanks, Eric.
Yeah, big thank you to Eric again for that website. But
okay, yeah, bro's he's up there.
Josh picked the winner last week.
Yeah.
He picked Seabell. He was the only one to pick that winner. He did really good. He's up to second. He is a good little ways behind Hunter. I'll be honest with you, I'm getting tired of talking about Hunter.
33 points behind first place.
33 points ahead is Hunter over Josh. And we need to see that deficit get cut. Because all last year I seen Hunter at the top. And this year so far...
We're going to have to steal that almanac.
Yeah.
But yeah,
something's going on there. But
bro's done a good job, Josh.
He did a good job there. I got to give a shout out to Lou, Mom.
Yep.
She threatened us last week, so
she moved up 3 spots.
She moved up 3 spots. She did really good. So we're gonna give a shout out to Lou. Hopefully, he can move up a few more spots. That's the two positives that I got. The negative that I have is the person that's tied with me. Which would be Jess, my wife. She dropped 10 spots from 4th to 14th.
That's what happens when you pick Logano.
She needed a parachute for that drop, yes. And I'm pretty sure the first 3 cautions of that race all involved that 22 car.
Yeah.
And to see her face every time it happened, she was not happy.
Was you smiling every time?
On the inside. I couldn't do it openly because she was within smacking range, you know. But
And Joey, honestly, I said, well, that's what happens when you pick Joey Logano. But that, in all honesty, I mean, Joey Logano's a solid pick at any track, especially there.
After she told me who she picked, I thought, my gosh, she's probably got the best pick on the board.
Right.
You know, and she was the only one to pick him.
This is where the luck and the bad luck come into play in the fantasy side of things. Is you can pick the best odds driver out there. And they've got just as much chance of being a wreck as the other 37, 38 guys do.
Yeah.
So still this week, last week Scott was 1 point ahead of me. This week, HR Scotty is 3 points ahead of me. We both had good picks. He took Reddick. Reddick got second.
Yeah.
I got 4th with Stenhouse.
Well, I mean, you're staying respectable right there.
Well,
I mean, that's just
absolutely. I didn't burn a Reddick, and I still got 4th. I mean, come on,
right?
I'll take it.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm coming for him.
Uh-huh.
I'm on his bumper right now,
Mm-hmm.
and if I don't pass him this week at Martinsville, I may just dump him.
Who? Yeah, you took Kyle Busch.
I took Kyle Busch.
And he took the Truex.
Yep. And Chevy might run over at Toyota this weekend.
Oh, I don't doubt that at all. Well, at least you're going to get yelled at if that happens. I took Byron. I took another Chevy. I took Byron because initially I thought, who am I going to pick? Of course, like I said, Truex and Hamlin stood out. But I thought everybody is going to take Truex or Hamlin. You're going to have a lot of those picks. So in order to move up, if one of those drivers have some bad luck, you got to take someone else, right? So that's why I took Byron. Byron's been hot all year. Even though his backup crew chief is now suspended,
Yeah.
he's got his real crew chief back. So
Well, I'll tell you, just because this is Thursday and most of the picks are in.
oh yeah, it's 7:15
So,
right
yeah.
now, so we're locked in.
Yeah, we're locked in. So I'll tell you right now, 85% of the picks are Byron,
What?
Blaney, a couple.
How many people picked Byron?
Well, I don't even have them all on here yet.
Okay.
But out of the 15 that I've got listed on here now, and I've got a bunch of messages, so I'm sure it's the other picks. Out of the 15,
This is gonna piss me off, ain't it? If a bunch of people pick Byron, boy, I'm gonna be mad as hell.
out of the 15, 5 of them are Byrons.
What about people that's around me? We're looking at Jess, Earl, Little D.
Jess
Ryan.
took Byron.
Well, yeah, she told me that just a couple hours
So
ago.
Jess, Earl, his is probably in the messages. Who else?
Earl probably picked Bubba, didn't he? I was expecting Scotty to pick
see.
Bubba because I know Bubba is his favorite driver.
No, Earl's message right there. I'll let you read it.
He went with Larson?
Yep. Yeah, buddy.
What? At Martinsville?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to have to question that. I'm going to send him a text right now. Hold on.
So a lot of Byrons. 1/3 of them that I had listed before all the picks got turned in. 5 of the 15 were Byrons already, and I think there was 4
Son of a bitch.
Blaney's out of the 15.
I'm fine with that.
1 Bell. Mom took Bell, which he's hot. He's got momentum behind him.
He's got the momentum, yeah.
So not a bad pick. I took Kyle Busch, like I said, and I know he's not a odds-on favorite for this track, but I got faith in Kyle. So it's gonna be a good race for fantasy. It's gonna be a good race for NASCAR fans.
Oh yeah, definitely. I just who did Hunter pick? Does he?
Yeah, Hunter had his pick turned in.
We need to know who's going to finish in the top 3.
Right. Hunter took Blaney.
And Josh? Do you have Josh on there?
Let me see. Blaney.
And for any of you wanting to know out there that's not in this league, these league standings are on, like I said, ridingthewall.com. You can pull that up, look at these standings at any time. They're active. They got top 5, top 10s. Eric's done a hell of a job on this. So you can always see these standings and you can know exactly what we're talking about. But as you're saying, Josh?
Blaney.
He took
Same
Blaney.
as Hunter. That's good for the good. Well,
you're not going to cut into Hunter's lead by that,
Right,
unless Blaney wrecks early.
But that's part of the great thing about this league is you got to you roll the dice on who you're going to use. I always look at who's around me, just like you brought up, because I can't pass anybody in front of me if they take the same driver as I do. Nobody else has took Kyle Busch yet, which could be a bad thing. But
it might.
It might pay off too.
It might. That's where you're thinking outside the box. Because
I'm up to 9th.
Right. You're up to 9th. HR is right there in 8th place.
Yep.
And that's what you want to do in this league is kind of think outside the box because there's certain tracks like Martinsville, maybe even Talladega next week, where there's going to be a lot of drivers or a lot of people that pick the same driver. So in order to make up ground, you have to kind of go against the grain, but think outside the box.
I think at Talladega you're going to see a lot of dark horses picked, just like.
You're thinking maybe some Bubbas and McDowells?
Yeah. And I'm not even going to talk about mine.
I'm not going to talk about mine either. I don't want to give anybody any insight.
I mean, you're definitely going to see everybody pulling these super speedway guys out
right.
of the hat. You know what I'm saying? So it's but I think you're going to see some Doug Graysons. I think you're going to see some Almondingers. I think you're going to see.
Almondingers at Talladega?
Yeah.
Really?
Keep an eye out on it.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, if you're picking Almondinger at Talladega, I think you're going downward. And I'm a Dinger fan.
No, I'm a Dinger fan too, but
I do like the Dinger.
Yep.
I'm not going to say that out loud too often, but
but I think you're going to see some Dingers out there. I think you're going to see some people pick the Dinger at Talladega. I know it's a super speedway, but just let's see how it turns out.
Now I can understand some Justin Haley's of the world out there taking them picks. I mean, I took Haley at Daytona at the 500.
Yeah. But
I'm expecting to see a lot of Bubba's.
Well, here's what I'll say. I'm glad we're seeing a lot of Ryan Blaney's picked this week. Because I will say this, I'm not saying I'm going to pick him, but he is my favorite to win the Talladega.
Blaney does very well at Daytona and Talladega.
Yeah.
He does.
The two guys that are my two Talladega guys that I know without a doubt I could pick them and have all the confidence in the world is the winningest Talladega guy of all time. Well, I can't say all time because I'm not positive on that. But in recent years, he's got 6 wins there. Brad Keselowski. And Ryan Blaney's right there with him to me.
Yeah.
He is a young Keselowski.
Well, Blaney, it seems like, and this is just what I've noticed. I don't know the stats. I don't know the history. I don't know all of that. But what I have noticed is that on these super speedways, Blaney's always right there.
Yep.
He don't always get the wins, but he's right there around the second, third place. When you see that snapshot of these leaders crossing that finish line, you see that 12
but
car
that's what I like about Blaney, or love about Blaney, I'll say, is it's almost like that guy. He's never leading on the last lap.
Right.
But he knows that boy's phenomenal on when to make that move. You see people make it too early, you see people make it too late. But when Ryan Blaney makes that move, it's like he always does it at the right time.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was one of the things that Fantasy League taking that into consideration. It pissed me off at the Daytona 500 because Blaney wrecked early. He had a bad car. He was limping around the track. He's doing all this stuff, but he always seems to get that lucky dog. He always seems to get that wave around. He always seems, and then he's right there at the end.
He's in a Ford.
Well,
Dorsey's there in the end. I mean, come on.
I mean, he was gimping around that track. It seemed like he was just back there, a lap or two down, and then when the checkered flag's flying, he's in the top 10. It's like, how did he even do that? Yeah. And it aggravates me. But when you're thinking of super speedways, Ryan Blaney is probably the first one I think of now.
Yeah.
Not always been that way, but now it is. And
well, he's on a strong team. He's always got a strong car.
Yeah.
He's a very talented wheelman.
Mm-hmm.
It's like his crew are very. They are very. They have a plan and they stick to it. I don't know what word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
But they are very strict on themselves. When they go into Talladega or Daytona, it's like that team, that number 12 team, they always have that plan.
Mm-hmm.
And they stick to it and they perform. And
it works out.
Even when they get down, like you said, they get down and he gets those laps back. He's always right there in the end. And they've proven that over and over again.
And it's like he knows. It's not a sprint, it's that long marathon of a race that just keep at it, keep at it, keep at it. You'll be there.
But like I said, I think you'll be surprised, I think, to see how many people pick Allmendinger, because that boy's fast, and
well, he's in a Chevy, so he's got to be fast.
Well, he is, yeah.
I mean, that comes with the territory,
right? So, but no, I think you'll see a lot of people that don't know. Some people don't want to use Blaney on a Talladega because you're burning a great driver on a what if he gets caught in a big one? You know.
Right. I mean,
You
Daytona, Talladega, you're throwing darts at the wall.
Right.
You know.
Exactly. So I mean, you've got your Ty Dillons, your Noah Graysons, Chris Bushers, those mid-level guys out there. That this is a great track to pick them on, but taking AJ Allmendinger on this track, I don't think you'll see a lot of people taking, but I think you're going to see some people take a chance on him.
And it wouldn't be a bad chance. I mean, to be
He's
honest.
fast.
Yeah.
So, well, folks,
I'm trying to get around. Well, I'm trying to break this tie with Jess, which I guess I'm not going to this week since we picked the same driver. Trying to pull away from Brian a little bit. He's still right there drafting off of me.
It's hard to get away from that guy.
Yeah, it is.
You know.
And Earl's right there in front of me, 10 points ahead. But he picked Larson. I think I might.
Well, I will say, too.
I don't know.
I will say, though, something that surprised me is Donovan got back in front of you. You know, that really...
Well, little D, we're going to make him feel good for a little while, you know.
He pulled back in front of you.
He did. But one person that dropped way down below me is Jeremy. He was right in front of me last week. He dropped 8 spots. He likes to talk, but he didn't back it up this week.
Yeah. Yeah, he didn't say a whole lot this week, did he?
No, he didn't. No.
But he will, though. When he gets back up there, he'll start.
I'm sure he will. I do
fire
not
back
doubt
up.
that. But, well, we'll see what happens at Martinsville. See if you can pass H.R. Scotty.
I think it'll happen.
You think so?
I think so.
Bump him going into turn 3 last lap. That'd be fun.
I mean, we're better to ride the wall than Martinsville,
right? Well, that's kind of where the name came from. Even though I'm not a Ross Chastain fan, you know, his move is what kind of helped give the name to this podcast. So,
well, me and you, we've rode quite a few racing walls ourselves. You know,
yeah, we
just
have.
you know, being spectators of the sport. You know, I know you've made a few laps out there yourself.
I've made a few. Mm-hmm.
So, well, folks, I think we're gonna wrap it up now.
Yep, we're gonna wrap it up. We'll see what happens at Martinsville. We'll be back next week to talk about Martinsville and look forward to Talladega and any of the drama that happens.
Love Dega Day. That's a national holiday at the Moore household.
It is. It is.
Absolutely.
It's going to be a good one to watch. We'll see what happens.
I usually wake up drinking, don't put clothes on, watch. Got
no
the TV.
pants Sunday,
Nothing. I pull the cooler.
I don't want to visualize.
I'll pull the cooler in the living room. I keep the back door open, the smoker rolling.
Right.
You know, and it's Dega all day, baby. So.
You got the little the clamps for the smoker, your cooking utensils in your hand the whole time?
Nope.
You got an apron on, you're butt naked, and on the couch?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I don't usually sit down. I usually stand in front of the TV, kick the coffee table out of the way, and stand there. And, you know, my guy's winning. I'm helicopter dancing.
I guarantee it. you always got a good opportunity for a helicopter.
Right. So if my guy's not winning, I'm cheering him on.
There you
Get
go.
up there, boy. Come on. You know?
But yeah, that'll wrap it up for this week. Like I said, we'll be back next week to talk about it.
Yeah, thanks everybody for listening.
I appreciate everybody that's listening. Like I said, go to ridingthewall.com, check out these league standings. You can get any of the past episodes on that website also.
Tell your friends.
Tell your friends. Tell your friends, tell your mom, tell your dad, tell your girlfriend.
Tell your wife and your girlfriend.
Exactly, but they probably already know.
Yeah.
So we'll talk to you next week, and enjoy your weekends at the races, wherever you're going. And we'll talk to you next week.
Right in the face.